I couldn't do anything for your biography because we couldn't. So if you want to introduce, I know you've been, I don't know if you're a firefighter still, if you want to tell us about you and then everything. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for having me. My name's Dan Adamus. I'm Jim and Olga's son. I'm very proud to be introduced that way. But I'm here this morning to talk to you about the Mellon Heritage Foundation and the work that's being done at the former Mercyhurst campus, the former St. Mary's Seminary campus. A little bit about me. Grew up on Tannery Street, 2 doors down from Carroll, and was very fortunate to graduate from Northeast High School. Attended the Naval Academy, spent 5 years in the Marine Corps, recruited by GE, and came back home to take care of my folks and raise my kids. This is a great place to be. There aren't many towns like Northeast anymore. This is truly a slice of Americana, and it's not something that you find many places in the country. I love this town, and I've tried to be as active as I can to come in. But today we're here to talk about the Mellon Heritage Foundation and what they're trying to do. I apologize because the idea of Mac and PC not...
Light. Turn the light off. There you go.
Thank you, but no. The history of St. Mary's is pretty amazing. My brother graduated in '77, the year of the fire. In fact, the senior class finished at my house. A couple of the families took the different classes in, and the seniors finished their course of study in our patio and backyard. But in the early 1870s, it was purchased and built by the Methodists as a seminary, and it was basically the de facto high school for the region. I don't know if a lot of people knew that. And the only people that could stay there in the dormitories were women. The men could attend school, but they couldn't stay there. After 7 years, the church defaulted on its mortgage, and the seminary was actually sold at sheriff's sale. And a family bought it and had it for 5 years. And at the same time, the Redemptorists, an order out of Baltimore, were looking for a place for them to have a seminary, and they purchased the campus. And we'll talk a little bit about what happened from there. It all had the French architecture that we see in what's Newman Hall now. Again, that went all the way across. But after the fire, it was not reconstructed. And the chapel, how many folks have been in the chapel at one point in time? It's just a beautiful piece of architecture that would be almost impossible to reconstruct today. It was St. Mary's, when the seminary had it, shared it with the community, and a lot of folks were able to come there. So just some photos for you to be able to see. When Mercyhurst purchased it, and I sit on the board of the Northeast Community Foundation, which was actually formed to recruit Mercyhurst to come to Northeast and utilize the seminary property when the Redemptorists left. And the foundation has grown from assets of $100,000 at that time to now over $20 million. That goes back to helping organizations in the Northeast community. But when Mercyhurst was here, they were here for more than 20 years, and they made a decision strategically to reconsolidate everything back to their main campus and be seminary sat dormant, the campus sat dormant. It was purchased by Blue Ocean, which was, we're going to call it Granite Ridge, and their intention originally was for it to be something similar to Spire, which the year that the seminary closed from the Methodist was the first year that Northeast High School existed. So the region was actually taken care of by having the high school be constructed at the same time that the seminary went out of business. So the region did have a high school, and that was back in 1879. When the Redemptorists bought it, the original building was the one in the center, and then they built a rectory, which is, for those of you who are familiar with the Mercier's campus, was Newman Hall. And then one of the students' families in New York paid to have the chapel constructed. I'll figure this out by the time I finish. And they built the dormitory area. For those like Chief Huber that remember the fire, the top floor was kind of like Harry Potter. It was all wood, it was all shiplap, and there were these monstrous desks that the kids sat at, and it was like the old school desk where you lift it up and all the books were inside, but there was these big tall desks, so each class studied at night, and then they had what's called a capo who sat on a raised platform on a similar desk facing the class that they were responsible for to make sure that everybody studied. Well, all that wood and all that paper in the top floor just made it a tinderbox when the fire took place. What a lot of people don't know is that there are more veterans in Erie County than in the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. But those resources are scattered, really, throughout. And unless a veteran has a relationship with the VA right now, it's an intimidating process. I mean, it even was for me. You feel like you don't deserve access to those resources. You don't know how to access them. You don't know what questions to ask and things like that. So the idea behind MVOC, or the Mellon Veterans Outreach Campus, was that you would have a center of excellence, a place where all of those different programs that are all over the place could be co-located, and the veteran could be able to come and be able to access all of those services and support in one place and not have to chase them around like the eighth guy in the pinwheel at the ice show, just scrambling around trying to figure, I gotta go here, and I gotta, what's the difference between this and this? And so the idea was to try to make that all together. So on December 21st in 2023, the Mellons closed on the property. And in February, I don't know if anybody was able to attend, there was a flag raising ceremony at the campus, and it was designed to be able to just have kind of a coming out party and celebrate the fact that this is now a place for veterans. And that is Rick Mellon there, so there's a formal ceremony and over the facility at that time. And Chief knows I need another hobby, like I need a hole in my head. But Rick and I were talking at one time, and I said, now that you've taken this over, realizing there's a ton of work to be done, because how do you start a veterans campus? Anybody here done it before? So it's kind of like a brand new type of concept. and there's a lot of work that has to be done. But I basically said, you can't have this big ceremony, have 250 veterans come, and then lock the doors. It'll be like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. Everybody will be wondering what the heck's going on in there. So I'm a marketing consultant by trade, and I told him I would move my office into the building, and we'd start with hospitality, and we'd kind of open up and be able to at least have a place where veterans can get together a few hours a week while we start to do our homework and figure out who's on first, what's on second, and what the next steps might be. And so we started that at the beginning of April. It's an amazing facility, and I'll show you a little bit, but a total of 66 acres on both sides of North Pearl Street. Basically the entire campus, and one thing that we're still trying to figure out, is all 16 West Division. That in itself is crazy, so everybody who was a student in the townhouses that are now owned by, I think, Perro Real Estate, their addresses were all 16 West Division as well. So it has been a very interesting experience to try to figure out how to get mail, as to where it goes. But the campus itself is comprised of, so we talked about the fact that this was the original structure, then this was the rectory, and then the chapel was built, and then this was the infirmary and the nuns' chapel, the Grey Nuns. It was a German order of nuns that were here, and they worked with Dr. Karsh, and they provided medical support for the students that were here. Mercier's named that Karsh Hall. The academic complex, Mercier's named Miller Hall, after the Miller family from Better Baked Foods, who were also tremendous benefactors to Mercyhurst. And Newman Hall, which is where the administration and the dormitories were, the old rectory, was named after St. John Newman. So in addition to the academic buildings of the main campus, we've got the gymnasium, we have the Ridge building, which was the Ridge Health and Safety. One wing was for the nursing programs, and the other wing was for the intelligence programs and the library. So those are the main buildings. On the athletic fields, this was a Division I level baseball field, and we're working to bring that back. We also have a full football field complex that's across the street on North Pearl, and the Little Pickers program, which is kind of now working things out with the rec committee so that all the youth programs will kind of fall under them. They use the football field, and we've cleaned up half of the garage area as a locker room and storage for all their stuff. The Erie Rugby Club uses the rugby field that's behind the football field, and then there's an NCAA softball field that needs some tender loving care that we'll be hopefully working on this spring. So those are kind of the assets that are now owned by, I think, Perro Real Estate. Their addresses were all 16 West Division as well. So it has been a very interesting experience to try to figure out how to get mail, as to where it goes. But the campus itself is comprised of, so we talked about the fact that this was the original structure, then this was the rectory, and then the chapel was built, and then this was the infirmary and the nuns' chapel, the Grey Nuns. It was a German order of nuns that were here, and they worked with Dr. Karsh, and they provided medical support for the students that were here. Mercier's named that Karsh Hall. The academic complex, Mercyhurst named Miller Hall, after the Miller family from Better Big Foods, who were also tremendous benefactors to Mercyhurst. And Newman Hall, which is where the administration and the dormitories were, the old rectory, was named after St. John Newman. So in addition to the academic buildings of the main campus, we've got the gymnasium, we have the Ridge building, which was the Ridge Health and Safety. One wing was for the nursing programs, and the other wing was for the intelligence programs and the library. So those are the main buildings. On the athletic fields, this was a Division I level baseball field, and we're working to bring that back. We also have a full football field complex that's across the street on North Pearl, and the Little Pickers program, which is kind of now working things out with the rec committee so that all the youth programs will kind of fall under them. They use the football field, and we've cleaned up half of the garage area as a locker room and storage for all their stuff. The Erie Rugby Club uses the rugby field that's behind the football field, and then there's an NCAA softball field that needs some tender loving care that we'll be hopefully working on this spring. So those are kind of the assets that, in terms of looking at, next steps, it was kind of how can we take advantage of and be able to do what we can with it. Only in Northeast. This is the line between the borough and the township. And it runs right through the middle of the campus. So we had some kids, mischievous kids, breaking in. So they broke in the circle where the rose garden is up on the top. So they went in one window, and the police officer and I just happened to be walking up. He dove through the window after them. They went 10 feet and jumped out the other window in the borough. So we're trying to work that out and figure out. But the interesting thing is that, here the Northeast Police Department responds, here the state police responds. So we're kind of, all the things that you have to do to kind of create what's called a memorandum of understanding to see if it's okay for, in an emergency, can we get whoever is closest to be able to respond, to be able to come. We're working on that. So everything that you see in yellow is part of the Mellon campus. And I'll talk about the trail in a little bit. But this is 66 acres. You could never get this kind of property together today anywhere. And I don't know that you could build even one of the buildings for the cost of the campus as a whole. But it brings with it some significant challenges. When you've got a building, and a set of buildings, in fact, that haven't been operational for 5 years, things kind of go awry very quickly. Dave and Chief know, I stopped on my way over to make sure the boiler was still running, because I have to restart it and restart all the heat pumps every 2 days. We're working on it, but it's a lot that has to be taken care of and addressed. But today, in terms of assets and resources to be able to help veterans, the dormitory sleeps 175. And the thought process as part of one of the veteran outreach programs is workforce development, and being able to help active duty military transitioning to civilian life, and then also those people who may be veterans that are transitioning from one job to another to be able to help with retraining and different opportunities that might be available to them. His celebrity chef, Robert Irvine. Does anybody know who Robert Irvine is or have heard of him? He's very popular on the Food Network, but he's also very actively involved with the U.S. military. He has a several $100 million contract to restructure food service at all of our bases. He's also redesigned the White House kitchen a couple times for different presidents. He joined the British Navy when he was 16, and he's just, a very, very dynamic individual. But he loves the campus. It reminds him of England, and his hope is to recreate the Culinary Institute that was here. And he actually had a TV show where he would train veterans, or he would just train people in restaurant arts. And once they learned how to cook, then he would put them in a food truck to learn the business of food. And once they were successful, then he would help them with a brick and mortar restaurant. So he's looking at that model as well as something that is a possibility. But at the same time, that training would also then provide food service for other specialties that could be here. Construction management, possibly cybersecurity, health services, CDL licenses. So a veteran might come here and be here for, maybe 6 weeks while they're training, and the students in the Culinary Academy would be providing the meals for them. At the same time, he's also looking at utilizing the cafeteria, being able for us to possibly to be able to do that, and he may want to open a restaurant with his name on it, which would be really amazing for our region. But we're looking at that as maybe one of the catalysts to be able to get things moving. One of the tough things about the way that the campus is designed right now is that all of these buildings are all tied together. So it's either all on or all off. And so we really need to have programs in place before we really unbutton and open up and get the main campus portion up and running. In the meantime, I'll show you shortly, we're doing a lot of different things in the Ridge building, and we're working to make the gym independent. As soon as the ground freezes, we're almost there. The last things that we're doing is we'll be putting the gym on our own gas well, and the township has been great, and we've already purchased the equipment. We'll be connecting the gym to its own water line, and it will be independent. And once that happens, all of our veterans and first responders will be able to have access to the gymnasium 24/7 to be able to do that. Each one of you will have a key fob, and so you'll be able to come in and be able to use the facility. If you see the porta potty sitting out here, it's because the little pickers, the wrestlers, really wanted to be in there. So we kind of got all the heating systems fixed, and when the high school bought new wrestling mats, they gave us their old ones, and we have a really, really nice wrestling room, and those kids are practicing. But we don't have any water to the building, so that's our kind of Band-Aid for the time being, to be able to get that up and running. But right now, all the water and everything comes from the corner of Division and Pearl Street. Everything runs through the main campus and then down to the gym. So the idea is to try to break the gym off and make it on its own. So that'll give us 2 standalone buildings, which in less than 18 months is quite, sometimes we sit there and we're like, oh, we're not doing enough. And sometimes I have to kind of put 2 hands on the table and take a step back and say, you know, boy, there's a lot that really got done in a relatively short period of time. But we're working on it. And, you know, folks are, you know, coming up, and, you know, Dave and I have had some great conversations about, you know, what might be possible. We have a complete wood shop that, stuff's not the greatest in the world, but, you know, I can write a heck of a marketing plan for you. I'm not sure which end of the saw to use, so we'll try to get the folks that know that and have that passion, and try to find a way for them to be able to utilize it and use the facilities as best they can to help. So again, this is kind of another view that you can see how the campus is set up right now. Originally, this was, when Mercer's came in, this was intended to be not only the medical facility for the campus itself, but also to be an urgent care facility for the community. We still believe that there's a need for that, and that's also something that's on our horizon. Then we look at, again, I'll put my fireman's EMT hat on as well, is that, you know, we want to be sure that we are providing the best response possible for the people that are here. But a lot of times, the things that people call an ambulance for, because we do have such great response, are things that should be taken care of at an urgent care facility and not necessarily utilizing an ambulance to be able to do so. So our hope is that in some way, shape, or form, we'd be able to do that, which again was one of the thoughts behind it and why the pool is for sale in town, which came with the property when Mr. Mellon bought it. He was told all he had to do was put water in it and turn it on. The pool is going to require more than $2.5 million to be able to be brought back. So it really is not cost effective to do so. So, you know, our hope is, you know, possibly be able to work something out with NECOM at some point in time. But in the meantime, that's why it's for sale. Is that it's you know, detached from the campus, and it requires so much work. I mean, originally, when Mr. Mellon heard that, he thought that would be great, therapeutic. There's so many water therapy programs that are out there to be able to do that. But he, you know, kind of felt like he didn't get the full story. And I can't thank Chief Huber enough. He's been that's our ambassador. He's been great about getting veterans to come visit us and to register. You know, I know Ann has as well, and a lot of you. If you know anybody who is a veteran, ask them to stop by and see us and at least get on our list so that we can send out a message when something's happening at the center and be able to share it with you. But in the main room, when the weather got bad for one of the Philharmonic sessions this summer, we had almost 500 people in the building. They asked, "Okay, the Philharmonic move into to the campus building?" We, sure, you know, and it works really well. So we've got lots of different resources. And right now, the way that we're trying to start to raise money is through the use of rental of the facilities. So, you know, people say, "Well, how come I can't do that for free?" Well, I mean, it's, as you can imagine, it's pretty expensive to even operate just some of these buildings. So until we're able to work with the VA and define what programs are going to be there and to get the renovations done, our short term is to be able to try to use the facility and be able to rent it to folks to be able to do that stuff. And there was a lot of sorting that had to be done to kind of figure out what you could use and what you couldn't. The same thing happens here. You know, there is a lot of stuff that was just left behind. And so we're kind of working our way through that as well, and we filled several dumpsters already, but we're trying to repurpose. So we've really beat the heck out of a steam cleaner, and we found some nice, comfortable furniture. This set of furniture was donated by Gump Edelman's family. When at 100, Gump figured it was time for him to maybe look at assisted living. And so this is a very comfortable spot for folks to be able to hang out. Thank you to all of you who have donated. We've got lots of games, puzzles. Dave's got a chess group that plays on Wednesday morning if anybody's interested. We're just trying to make the space as comfortable as possible. And for any of you that are veterans, my company sponsors a snack bar, so there's always food, and there's always candy. So drinks to come in and have folks hang out and be comfortable. For those of you who were in the military, it's kind of reminiscent of a USO. It's a space that you can call your own and be able to hang out and to bring your friends. The more the merrier. And we're doing the best we can, to get started, but we wanted to just kind of brand it and give it that identity. And if anybody lives in proximity, Mrs. Rouse called me on a regular basis early on to let me know I was still screwed up with the lights, to try to get the lights on campus. We didn't even know where the timer was to know which was where, and we're at the point now where, if anybody sees anything, holler at me, okay? But we got the lights to come on at dusk, and they're on throughout the campus. As soon as the weather breaks, we're going to be up on the roof. We've got some repairs we have to make, but we're also going to try to get the spire above the chapel lit again as well. So that's on our to-do list. In terms of the Ridge building itself, when I first came in, I asked Mr. Mellon if I could go on a reconnaissance mission. I went into the old campus building and with a couple of friends, and we tried to find what we could that we could bring over to be able to start with our hospitality mission. And I did some work in Eastern Europe after the wall fell, and I did some work on some former Soviet MiG bases on the Polish border in the former DDR, the former East Germany. And when the wall fell, the Soviets took the trucks and left everything else behind. And there was a lot of... it works really well. There are very few places where you can have more than 100 people have a formal setting. And so we've had a number of events that have taken place there already, and it works pretty well. Next Friday is the next in the series, but we've started a speaker series we're calling a Lunch and Learn, where we provide lunch at 11:30, and then we have a speaker who comes in, and we're trying to make them interesting and have them be related to a topic locally, either by the speaker or by the subject matter. And we're getting more than 60 people to attend them. It's really kind of neat. And the topics, for those of you who've attended, they've been pretty good. The last one that we had were on Washington's spies and the role of intelligence in the Revolutionary War. Next Friday is a topic on a diary of a doughboy, so the diary of World War I Army soldier. And the presenter is Bob Welch, who was a writer, editor for the Erie Times, and he's already written a book on local military folks, service members and veterans from the region, and he's working on a second one as well. The speaker last month was a retired agent for the CIA, and Bob Heibel, who many of you might know. Bob is a retired FBI agent, and he had started the intelligence program at Mercyhurst. He is our librarian and resource coordinator, and he is coordinating the speaker series that goes along with that. But in addition to what we had in the facility to start with, we now have a pretty massive library, and Bob and his team, Dave Herman and some other folks, have been cataloging the books, and it's based on the same filing system that the VA uses. So those resources are added and available. And some of them are specialized texts that were part of someone's estate or were made a donation to us. And our goal is to keep this stuff out of the landfill. We're losing the greatest generation, and a lot of times people, kids or grandkids, are cleaning out grandma and grandpa's house, and they find military stuff or they find books or whatever. They don't know what to do with them, and it's just, I'm going to the dumpster. Our goal is to keep it out of the dumpster, and what we do is, if we sort it and it doesn't necessarily fit with what we're doing, we hang on to it, and then we will bring it to McCord, and when they have their book sale, those will be additional assets that they'll be able to sell for their fundraising efforts. So if you know of somebody who has something that they're not sure what to deal with, we'll take it. And if we're not the right people to have it, we'll find somebody who does. Also, Joe Fott, a retired major, he also taught in the Harbor Creek school system. He's a PhD. He has turned the bookstore, the old Mercyhurst bookstore, into a museum. And we have uniforms from local service members. So there's a local connection to everything that comes in that go back to the Revolutionary War. We're real close to being able to open that, and so it'll have hours to the public, and our hope is that it will be an asset that will be able to work in cooperation and conjunction with the Historical Society as an extension of the resources that are available locally. So that's kind of the building. In terms of the foundation and its mission, we started, again, focused on strictly veteran outreach. And when we applied for, as you can imagine, that even the material to repair the roof on the gym could be $100,000. The sales tax on that, so that's $6,000 that we would have to pay that helps nobody except the Commonwealth. So we applied for an exemption from sales tax, and the Commonwealth told us that they didn't believe that the veteran community was broad enough constituency to warrant sales tax exemption. So it wasn't the only reason, because we immediately started, can't say no to somebody in need. We had started reaching out and helping other organizations as well. So the foundation's board met and broadened the mission in terms of the constituencies and groups that are served. So now it's not only veterans that the foundation is serving and supporting, but also youth athletic programs and families locally in need, and to serve as a steward of the community, of corporate and citizen stewardship. So a lot of the things that you're hearing us do right now and seeing happen, to include even the holiday trail. You know, for our first year, we really appreciate all the companies that stepped up, but you know, our thought was to try to extend the decorations into the campus And we did the Ridge Building this year and decorated the inside of it, and we hosted, if anybody came, with the weather, Sugar Plum Saturday had to be removed and reconstructed, but we had 52 vendors that came to the winter market, and it worked really well, and everyone had a good time. We had cotton candy and popcorn and things on Friday nights, and we had people just kind of show up, and so we're hoping to be able to build on that, moving forward. But that's kind of the mission of the foundation and kind of where we are right now. The other thing that I wanted to just kind of share with you is that Vicki Stetson, who we all know is a dynamo, and I can't say no to her no matter what. Just not allowed. It's a kryptonite, but she has always had a passion for the campus, and she remembered the college woods. Now I grew up, I still play loud. It's a kryptonite, but she has always had a passion for the campus, and she remembered the college woods. Now I grew up, I still play hockey today, but I grew up when I was 5, and it was amazing. Again, that slice of Americana. The pond had a warming shack, and the brothers would bring down hot chocolate and donuts, and we'd skate all day and every night. And by 9:30 at night, everyone would grab a shovel. We'd scrape the pond. My dad would bring a fire truck down and flood it. The next morning, it'd be like glass. I mean, it was amazing. It was beautiful. And people sledded there, and many of you might have at time. So Vicki's always had a passion for that and wanting to bring it back. And when all the disarray happened with Granite Ridge, she wanted to try to buy the woods and create a nature sanctuary and trail to go along with it. And when she sat down with Mr. Mellon and asked if we bought the whole campus, he says no. He goes, but I'll give you a 50-year lease and 2 25-year options. We'll do it together. And so Vicki's created this consortium together, looking at the borough and the foundation and 4-9, and she has invested, and 4-9 has been saving money for decades to try to help with this. And so she's hired a company called Poshik MTR. They are an architectural design firm out of Pittsburgh. They designed Asbury Woods. They designed Wintergreen Gorge, that access and the trails that go along with it. And they're now looking at the College Pond. And so this is kind of just a summary of the latest efforts that we have. We kind of looked at everything that came along with it. Going to the
It's just the winter season.
Well, this is a picture from the snowstorm we had last week.
It's one of the whiteouts.
I don't know why.
Tired of white and gray?
I don't know why it's not. Mac and PC don't like each other. That's the PowerPoint we were trying to watch.
That's okay. I'll work from here.
We got a map, so.
I can hit and roll with the best of them. So anyway, we're talking about this area here this is the College Pond, Bank Street, North Mill, and VK's also purchasing some additional property adjacent to that. And so we've been working with and studying, and if any of you attended in January, there were 3 different sessions that were open to the community to be able to discuss what would folks like to see if we had, trails that were there. And on the other side of Sunset, the borough already owns land on either side of the creek. And there are trails that are already established there. There's benches in some of those areas. And so there was a discussion of, hey, could we link these guys together and create something that would allow folks in the community to be able to have access to a nature trail that would take you, in essence, almost all the way down to the lake. So that's all kind of in the works, but right now, I think what's going to happen is it'll be in 2 phases, is that one will be looking at the Mellon campus property as well, and what's the best way to be able to utilize that property for trails and different access points. And then next generation might be to utilize everything that goes down to the Blue Barn. Northeast is a place where you don't own your house until you sell it. So I live in Rick Clark's house on Dewey Road. It'll be mine whenever my wife and I sell it. But Dave Thompson's house that was down as you went down Paper Mill Hall and then went all the way down before you came back up to the lake, there was a colonial, and it had a semicircular driveway and the big blue barn that's now all owned by the borough. Actually, Marty Hawes bought it after that, so I guess we could say it's Marty Hawes' property because Marty's estate sold to the borough. But the discussion of where Safety Town and all that stuff is stored right now, could there be uses for that property? Could there be picnic pavilions and some other things that might be able to be down there? So all those questions are being asked. And this really neat PowerPoint that I had to be able to show you had results of what came out of the discussions and the feedback that came out from people as to what they would like to see and what they wouldn't want to see that would be tied to those trails. So all that's being kind of factored in and addressed, and we're looking at all the different species that are there, the ones that need to be protected, the ones that are invasive, where are their wetlands, what's the best way to be able to do it. So you'll hear more and more about that down the road, but these 2 different groups are working together hand in hand and moving on multiple timelines, as we try to look at what's the next best step. So I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody might have, sure. But again, our goal here was to kind of be able to introduce the foundation to you and let you know kind of who the Mellons are and what's happening at the campus. Bright light!